Hey everyone, so this is going to be my first in-person interview, so I just want to say beforehand, if I'm not looking at the camera and looking awkward, it's just because I really just didn't know where to put my eyes or face. But today we'll be going over the LLM application, so a little bit of the LLM application components, LLM experience, and then any kind of like general advice. So if you have any questions, comment them below, and if you're not subscribed, please subscribe, and I hope you enjoy this video. Alright, hello everyone, welcome back. Today we have a special guest, not only a Harvard man, but an Oxford man. Want to introduce yourself for everyone?
Sure. So my name is Mustafaen. Hi guys. So I'm currently doing a master's in law at Harvard, like Vilo said. Prior to that, I studied at Oxford and the LSE back in the UK. So my education has kind of been very British. I did the GCSE system, then A-levels, then a standard undergraduate, then another undergraduate with a couple of work experiences in between, and now I'm here.
Awesome. And yeah, you worked at the European Parliament?
Yeah, so my first job actually straight out of my first undergraduate, which was at the LSE in economics. I was a European parliamentary researcher. And in fact, I was one of the last British ones before Brexit happened. So that was a whole experience.
Way cool. And so as far as like the LLM program, do you have to have like all of this experience to apply?
So the unique thing about the LLM is that kind of it brings together people from so many different legal traditions. And so there's kind of no standard path. I mean, there are some German students who have like 2 PhDs. There are some Americans who have, straight out of college and they've applied. So it's a complete mix. There are people with lots of work experience, some legal, some non-legal, and then there are people who kind of apply straight out of college.
That's great to hear. It sounds like then like if someone is like watching and like, oh, I don't have like a lot of experience, like that's not necessary just to apply. Like,
honestly, when you're applying to LLMs, you can kind of see on many websites what the requirement is. I know that some universities in the US are very strict about having kind of 2 years of work experience, Stanford and Columbia, but Harvard seems to be kind of one of the unique universities that looks at the all-round package. And so if you've been involved in interesting things at university, etc., I think it's definitely still worth an application.
As far as the application itself, I know it's probably been a little bit since you filled it out, but yeah. Can you maybe just explain a little bit of the components?
Absolutely. So it's a pretty standard application. Anyone who's going through the LLM route will be familiar with this. But you have a personal statement, one that's academically oriented, and one that's kind of a what will you do once you get into Harvard. You have to have 3 references, then you fill out a resume section, and then you also have the chance to add in anything about your publications or extracurricular stuff that you think they might find interesting.
Awesome. And then I know, me personally, a personal statement was one of the most, like I'm like, okay, what do they want? What do I do it? Would you mind like sharing how you approached it, or maybe just any general advice if that's more comfortable?
Absolutely. I know it's going to sound cliche, but the most important thing about the personal statement, I think, is to make it personal. Because I think if you're at the stage of applying to Harvard or Stanford or one of these good universities, your academics are up there, you've got good references, and so the thing that'll probably make you stand out or not stand out is your personal statement. So speak to something that's very true to you, something that you're passionate about, and something that you'll really use your education for. I think Harvard doesn't want to think of itself like an end in itself. They really want to see themselves as a means to an end, and you have to convince them that that thing is something that Harvard can help you achieve.
And then do you know, I know there's like 2 essays.
Yeah.
Do you know if those are always the same?
Pretty much always the same. If my memory is serving me right, and please check the website, just in case I've got this wrong. One's kind of like like a personal statement of why the LLM is going to be useful, and then kind of why Harvard helps you achieve those goals. And one of the questions is phrased like, if there's a legal problem in the world, apply a framework to it. And honestly, that sounds a bit daunting, because I know when I was approaching it, I was like, oh, legal frameworks, I need to know academics who have specific frameworks, but it can be quite general. It can be kind of, this is a legal problem and these are the different avenues I would approach it with. But again, please check the website in case they've updated it. Yeah.
Awesome. Did you have like an interview or anything like that for the program?
No, I know they always have this kind of disclaimer line that applicants might be invited to an interview, but I don't think LLMs, I don't know anyone who has had an interview yet.
I see. And then as far as the recommendation letters, do you have any tips for that?
I would say that definitely when you're looking out for recommendation letters, emphasize people who know you better, like who have kind of supervised you very closely, rather than kind of these big names. I know that some of my friends who were applying kind of went for heads of department or vice chancellors of universities, and although that sounds quite, sexy in the abstract, I think it's always more useful for an application committee to kind of know someone's opinion of you who's worked with you in kind of close quarters.
So another big component of going to law school is how to pay for it. Financial aid, I think, was one of the more daunting things for me. I was like, you want me to take out how much in loans and all of this other stuff. But I heard there's some sort of fellowship or things that people might want to know about.
So honestly, the first thing I'd say, it's very country specific. So if you're from a specific country, please just Google Belgium, kind of scholarship opportunities, funding opportunities for Harvard LL.M. And the other port of call is this website, which is kind of the Harvard International Office, and then you're able to see kind of the fellowships and scholarships available. So I just know of the UK context, and I know that there are kind of three main ones that UK students apply for. There's kind of the Fulbright, and that's the most common one that you'll find at the LLM. People from all around the world have applied to a Fulbright and they kind of get help. But then there's also the Kennedy and the Frank Knox fellowships, which are very similar. They're called different things because Kennedy is run external to Harvard. It's run by the Kennedy Institute, I think, or whatever it's called. And then there's the Frank Knox Fellowship, which is actually a Harvard fellowship, and that's the one that I'm currently on.
Awesome. And then as far as timelines to apply for that, did you have to do that like really in advance or after you get in, or like how?
You apply for that actually simultaneously to how you're applying, and the interesting and strangest thing about the process for I think both the Kennedy and Frank Knox, I don't know too much about the Fulbright, is that they're unrelated to your Harvard application. So there is a situation where you could potentially get a Frank Knox or a Kennedy scholarship, but not get in, which would be the most, heart-wrenching thing.
Oh wow. And then is there anything else about the program? Like, what do you need to apply? Do you also need recommendation letters or things like that?
Yeah, luckily, kind of, if you're applying to Harvard anyway, you're going to have all the materials you need to apply. It's a very simple process. I think there's kind of one personal statement, a couple of references. I would say that it's extremely streamlined. You won't actually need to be engaged that much with the process. Just make sure that it's a very tailored application. You make clear why you need the funds, what you're going to do with your experience here at Harvard. But apart from that, all I remember from the experience is kind of submitting it and then being called for an interview, which lasted about 15 minutes, and then you're kind of there. You'll have the decision early January, I think.
And then, I don't know if you know like more generally, but for people like, say you don't get the scholarship, what are like some common ways that people fund this? Like, can you get a loan through the school?
So again, I would say like just knowing from the LLM perspective, it's very country specific. I know that a lot of governments, especially in the developing world, are quite keen on sending people to Harvard LLM. And so always like check with your ministries or whatever to see if there are funding opportunities. But more importantly, I know that Harvard has got financial aid. You would know better whether it's a good financial aid program, or I don't know whether it's a great one, but I know that a lot of LLMs also access that. What that involves is kind of you detailing your financial position, and once you get an offer, there's kind of this process where they work with you to find out the best amount and kind of support.
Now that you're here, like, what has the experience been like?
Honestly, I've absolutely loved it. So the LLM, we describe it as a year, the LLM year, but essentially it's really 8 months. It's kind of 8 very quick months. Your time here will be split up into 3 terms. You'll kind of have a full term, which is the standard 3 months, then a very quick, specific to Harvard tradition, which is the J term, right? It's like 3 weeks long, and then you have the spring term, which we're currently in. And honestly, it's been amazing. The people have been amazing, not just within the LLM cohort, but I've been able to kind of make friends from across the school and university, so from the medical school, the business school, even the extension school. There are so many different people here. And in terms of the things that you can get involved in, there is so much. And I would say that honestly, it's worth looking and kind of getting a feel for it before you arrive, because once you arrive here and the treadmill starts, you'll want to do everything, but it's just impossible with the amount of time you have.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's so cool, like the LLMs have like a group chat and they like do events together. There was like a snowball fight this weekend, so it's
you went.
Yeah.
You get invited to more of the events than me.
But I think it's a really cool place, especially because I think like you might think like Harvard's like this like cutthroat place, everyone's like trying to vie for the top, but it's a really great community. Now you're here, like what class are you taking?
For this semester, I am taking Law of the Sea, which is a kind of international law facing course. I'm doing legal profession, constitutional law, and one other one which I should remember. Anyway.
Clinic or
French.
French.
Okay, so I'm cross-registering. Yeah.
Oh, nice, way cool. Law of the sea. I feel like it's such an interesting topic, like.
I'm surprised you're saying that, because there's kind of a split at the law school between international law focused classes and domestic law focus. And I know the JDs, who are kind of the standard law school route, they all kind of look at the international law courses with a bit of dread, whereas the LLMs who have that international background, they absolutely love it. And so,
aside from classes, there's so many things going on campus. I heard like you're in the Harvard Innovation Lab. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So the Innovation Lab is a very cool kind of institute, I think is the best way to describe it, where it doesn't matter whether you're at the law school, the business school, the med school, they kind of do this invitation for ideas towards the beginning of the year, and then you kind of have to submit an idea, and then they see if they can help you. And then there are different tracks that you can be involved in. There's kind of a starting off track, there's a build it track, there's a funding track, and the Innovation Lab is basically this community or hub area with a kind of physical space near the business school, where you take your idea, have mentorship, have access to resources, where you can have your meetings or meet investors, and they try to take your business or venture to the next level. So I just happened to have a social enterprise before coming to Harvard, and so a lot of the law school professors were kind of keen of supporting me, and then they suggested that I should apply, and so I did, and yeah.
And what is a social enterprise?
So it's called the Dill Internship Project, and it's designed to kind of rethink the way that we look at developing countries. So right now I think if you want to help a developing country, your mind almost immediately goes to charity. But I think that even though charity is extremely important, the only way that you can view a country as kind of an equal rather than something that you're just giving out handings to is by raising them up. And the way that we do that is connecting talent from outside of that country, developed countries, to opportunities in sectors that need it in Pakistan. So for example, a textile industry that supplies to Zara downstream, they probably don't have any say in kind of the sustainability targets that Zara has. But Zara, let's say they sign on to a European or an American legislation saying that, hey, you need to cut your emissions by 25%. And obviously that affects the factory downstream, but they may not have the know-how to help achieve that. And so we kind of connect them to people that can.
Are there any other activities that you're involved in, like a journal or clubs or anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm part of LIDS, and I always forget what this stands for, but it's International Development Law in International Development Society. Honestly, very cool, and especially if you're an LLM, you'll probably find a lot of the projects they do very interesting because it's very internationally focused. But at the beginning of the year, they kind of sign up with partner organizations and partner law firms who kind of have these pro bono projects going on. So the law firm that we're working with is advising these Chinese NGOs, but equally you could be working on a UN report. And so we're actually compiling a report for the NRDC, which is kind of the main environmental NGOs here. And it's called the National Resource Defense Council. And we're preparing a report for Chinese NGOs on how they can kind of combat climate change with litigation. And it's really cool, very internationally focused, and I would definitely recommend kind of meeting them at the Freshers Week. What do you call it here?
Orientation?
Yeah, orientation, yeah. In the UK we call it Freshers Week.
Freshers Week, I like that. And then, okay, that's already so many activities, but are there any more?
No, the only thing I'd say is that I play quite a lot of sport here, like not formally, but I found yeah, exactly, like basketball. And so I've taken it up, having never touched a basketball before getting here, and like, yeah, I'm not very good, but it's fun.
That's cool. And is it like through the different Harvard schools?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of us, like from the medical school, the business school, who get together on Friday evenings and just play.
And do you know what you want to do after? Do you have your plans set up?
So I think I'm going to go back to the UK. So I should have mentioned, I'm right at the beginning of my kind of legal journey, legal career, where I haven't actually qualified in the UK. And so I am taking modules at the law school which will make me eligible for the New York bar. And I hope to sit it soon or in a couple of years. But I also want to qualify in the UK just to have that kind of cross-jurisdictional thing. So I think I'm going to head back straight after the LLM. But in terms of what people do after the LLM, I think it's like a 50-50 split, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe a bit less, 60-40. 60 who go back to their countries of origin or kind of close to home, and then 40% who take the New York bar or the California bar and then kind of stay here. Was
there anything else that you want to add, or?
No, I would just say that, you know, honestly, if you're thinking about applying, do apply, because this is a kind of 8-month period, even though they call it an LLM year, 8-month period, which has been an amazing experience. It kind of opens a lot of doors and it makes you think in a slightly different way to maybe you're used to. So definitely in terms of broadening horizons, I think it's worth an application.
Well, thank you so much for watching, and thank you again for coming.
No, my pleasure.
Good luck everyone on your applications, and feel free to comment any questions you have below.
Good luck.